background, so I'll let him share the story there, what you have, and we'll go from there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I just started, by the way. Now, I'll tell you a little bit of my background story. My father had a heart attack when he was 54. He's still alive. Had a quadruple bypass surgery at 55. My younger brother, by 1 year, died at the age of 54 of a heart attack 4 years ago. And I'm 59. So, obviously, this has been on my mind. But I was perfectly healthy except for being not even overweight. Let's get real. You know, if you're my weight, you're obese. And I knew that. And I wouldn't do anything about it because I love to eat. Anybody who knows me knows that I love to eat. But I had to do something, and it just wasn't happening until this warning sign started to happen. And I'll back up a little bit to talk a little bit about serendipity, because about middle of this year, in August or something like that, I went to a seminar and I sat beside a guy, the only chair available I think at the time, and it happened to be Diamond Fernandez. So I sat beside Diamond. Diamond and I connected, really started to talked about my family history. I had no problems at this point. And he said, you know, can we connect on Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever? I said, yes, of course, absolutely. Really like the guy. So he's a likable guy, isn't he? So I ended up, he ended up becoming friends on Facebook. Never spent any other time with him otherwise. In November, early December, I started having breathing problems. And the breathing problems were getting worse. I thought it was a lung problem. I had no clue that it was a heart problem. And then it became pains. The pains started getting worse. And then I went through a stress test. EKG first. Went to the emergency at South Hospital a couple of times. They couldn't find anything wrong. They did EKGs, blood work, nothing wrong. I went for a stress test, nothing wrong. Passed the stress test. Went for an echocardiogram, that's the sonogram, the ultrasound of the heart, nothing wrong. So I'm thinking, yeah, this has definitely got to be the lung. And then they said, well, we want to go one step further and do a thallium or a dye, where they put dye in the heart, and do a test again, a stress test again, which I did. And that's when they found the blockage in the back of the heart. As much as an 80% blockage. And they sent me to see a cardiologist. Well, by this time I had traveled to Toronto not knowing I shouldn't travel. And the air pressure caused some major problems on the way back. And I put that on Facebook, and Diamond saw it and said, you got to come and see me. And so I did come and see him, but I also had the appointment with the cardiologist. So I went to the cardiologist, and the cardiologist says, well, you've got a bad kidney, you've got high creatinine levels, but we've got to do the angiogram. And I said, well, what's the risk? And he says, 40% or higher risk of kidney failure, that you'll go on dialysis. I said, well, that doesn't sound like a good option. He says, you got no other option. And I'm thinking to myself, I've already talked to Diamond, I think maybe I do. And then he said, because of an earlier incident I had in 2000 where my wife will tell you I had a bad bleeding incident from a simple nose operation where they had to defibrillate my heart because I died, basically. And I was admitted into the foothills for 5 days. And because of that, there was a danger with the stent of a fatality. In other words, you could die. Well, I said, well, those don't sound like good options. He says, well, you got no other choice. You got to do this. I'm thinking, boy, these guys will just push you down that road, but maybe that's the only thing they know. And I kept talking to Diamond. Diamond was not selling me on anything. Diamond just said, go do your research. Here's what I'm telling you, but go do your research. And we did. My son did the research. My son is the most skeptical guy on the planet. And he said, Dad, you fall for anything. Let me check this out. And so he started checking it out, and he came back and he said, I'm having a hard time finding anything wrong with this. And my wife looked into it, I looked into it, we read about doctors in the United States. They're using it at Cedars-Sinai Hospital, the Cincinnati Heart and Coronary Clinic. Famous clinics are using this EECP, they call it EECP in the United States, but this External Counterpulsation Therapy And I said, you know, I got to do this. The risks and the other things. So I came to Diamond and I said, Diamond, how many people have died during this procedure? And he said, none. Not only none have died doing this, but none have died in the recordings of this anywhere in the world. Whereas the other one, I had some pretty bad choices to make, right? Really hard choices to make, big risks. So I've been on this, and I'm still having pain through the first session, second session, third session. Today was my 9th session, and finally, today is day number 3 without pain, consecutive days without pain. For the first time in 3 months, no angina pains for 3 days in a row. I'm not saying I'm out of the woods. All I'm saying is it seems to be working. I don't know, okay? So there's 36 treatments. I'll know more towards the end of it, but it seems to be working, and everything I've read sounds absolutely like it will. So that's just my take on it so far, and I'm just thrilled that I'm standing in front of you, and I didn't go through the stent and the angiogram, because I may not have been standing in front of you, okay? Because I have had some other issues with drugs that just have sent me in the wrong direction.